last leaf falls from the oak. Your first pale breath blackens in the ink of winter night. All hail the Holly King. Gather round the Yule log and warm your shivering limbs with a tale. This is part 2 of the We Bleed Orange and Black Holiday Special.
Working kindly in its little sphere. Marley was dead, to begin with. It was indisputable, a fact as ironclad as any sum in Mr. Scrooge's ledger. His partner's account, such as it was, had been closed on the eve of Christmas 7 years prior. Indeed, 7 years gone by this very night. And yet, old Jacob Marley had appeared in Scrooge's chambers, a dreadful apparition, with a warning more dreadful still. Ebenezer Scrooge was doomed, consigned to a fate worse than Marley's, for he continued to squander his days in the counting house, pinching coins instead of giving alms. He was told to expect 3 spirits, cavaliers on the road to damnation, that would ride him down and depose him from his destination. The first specter arrived as foretold, a sprightly will-o'-the-wisp that blinded Scrooge with visions from his past until his eyes leaked tears. When Scrooge could suffer no longer, he snuffed out the ghost and dried his eyes in the dark. "Bah!" said Ebenezer. "It was merely my bedside candle, intruding on my slumber, a sizzle of tallow, an echo working upon the ear." What had Marley's shade lamented? The incessant torture of remorse. Humbug! Scrooge straightened his nightcap, shod his feet in slippers, and flew from the bed. His persecuted dreams had sprung, no doubt, from the shameless beggars who had turned up at his office, prattling about provisions for the poor and destitute. He should have bid them good afternoon and turned them out sooner. Why should Scrooge deplete his hard-won gains to mollycoddle the idle multitudes? Because it is Christmas? Out upon Merry Christmas! If the need was so keen as they claim, then Scrooge's entire fortune would prove about as useful as a dog barking at a knot. His generosity would change nothing but that he should find himself in the workhouse, and swelling the ranks of the poor besides. He groped for the bedroom door, eager to admire his banker's book. An emerald giant stood before the sitting-room fire. "Enter!" bellowed the giant. "Gather near and make merry, for I am the ghost of Christmas present." Scrooge scowled at the green-robed Goliath. He was crowned with a wreath like the Holly King himself, yet his bare feet and chest suggested kinship with the wretched poor. "Do you endeavor to show me visions of Christmas present?" The ghost hoisted a horn of plenty that burst into ruddy flame. "Indeed! Let us walk amongst your fellow man." Scrooge sat and opened his banker's book. What good are ghostly visions of the present? I could step out and witness such things for myself, should I desire, which I most assuredly do not. You may see yourself out from whither you came." The ghost gasped. "How now? Did not Jacob Marley entreat you to heed our words? Did not my predecessor whisk you away to amble among the shades of yesteryear, from whence you came?" Scrooge sipped his cold gruel. "It scarcely matters. My opinion on the issue of Christmas charity remains resolute." The ghost's cheerful face dimmed. "Your wicked heart is adamant." He extinguished his torch. "Very well. If you wish to conclude our business, you may simply touch my robe." Scrooge gave the giant's pocket an impertinent tug. A berry leapt into his palm. It was a curious fruit, equal parts crimson and clover. "Pray tell," Scrooge mused, "what's this?" The spirit grinned. "A new treatment for seasonal abrasive disorder, called Noelazor." He plucked up the pill and shoved it down old Ebenezer's throat. Scrooge sputtered, eyes goggling as the sitting room flooded with stewed eels, minced veal, croquets of fowl, saddles of mutton, venison, herring, sausage, fruits, cakes, tarts, sponges, and puddings. The wave of succulent, steaming, and treacly treats carried them through the window and down into the snowy street below. Children hurled snowballs to and fro, festooning the sky with comets. Neighbors shoveled one another's walkways. Young couples touched cherry-red noses, and church bells sang out, welcoming all to join in celebration. Scrooge caught an errant snowball and lobbed it back. The frosty rime on his withered visage cracked all at once in a joyous smile. "Hurrah! Did you ever see such a bustle?" the ghost of Christmas present laughed. "Each and every year." Scrooge bowed to the giant. "Thank you, good sir. Noel Azor has shown me the true meaning of Christmas." The spirit replied with a sorrowful look, and parted his robe to reveal a nest of emaciated urchins. A yellow-eyed girl croaked. Side effects of Noel Azor may include a slight disorder of the stomach, shadows of things that may be, Christmas creep, eczema, mistletoe nail, hot cockles, G-cysts, Bethleflem, Yule logs, sleigh bells palsy, low elf-esteem, Santa's little herpes, North polio, bowels of holly, tinselitis, wassailments, fruit ache, pepperminternal bleeding, roasted chestnuts, figgy pooping, acute oplotki, bahu door rabies, yellow snow, pole tongue, icicle cell anemia, snowballsheimer's, meatus loaf, kapusta, birth defects, visions of sugar plums, a voice as big as the sea, pulmonary embolism, felice navidi, carrot nose, 2 eyes made out of coal, belly whopping, falalala laryngitis, ring-ting-tinglenitis, good King Wenceslas of smell, grinched nerve, menstrual krampus, black Peter, Santa babies, Kris Kringling sensation, nauseous super nos, increased gritherness, radiant beams from thy holy face, melicalikimacothelioma, Casperger's, Balthasar's, milky organ failure, garbage day, fungus lick, chimney dad, sticky bandits, you'll shoot your itis, Zuzu's patellas, Bumbles, Bloodbeat, Burgermeister Meisterburger syndrome, Emmett Otter's jugular vein thrombosis, several scrotums screaming, sex goiters swelling, 5 blown O rings, 4 curdled dugs, 3 French pox, 2 colon burns, and a partly ripped artery. Seek immediate help if you experience yippee-ki-yanus, old fezziwig, or tiny timpotence. Scrooge awoke in his bed. It was still Christmas Day. He fumbled for his pill bottle. Alas, it was empty. He dashed to the window and put out his head. "You there, boy! How can I get more Noelazor?" A soot-faced boy hollered back. "Why, talk to your healthcare provider. Do not take Noelazor if you are currently using Mirthodone. For other seasonal disorders, ask your doctor about Arborify."
You just couldn't help yourself.
I got the idea shortly after last Christmas, and I was like, I don't know if there's enough there. And then I got the idea for Arborify, and I was like, oh wait, that's the tag on the joke. There's more Christmas stuff to tie into than there is Halloween stuff. It's never ending.
So much that I can't remember the ones I was going to point out. Well, I was laughing throughout there, sir. You really turned it, though. I mean, it started as a poetic...
I knew it hinged on that. I knew I really had to go hard into the Christmas Carol aspect of it. And then I was like, how does this work? Which ghost would it be? But I like the idea that if the ghosts aren't working, you need pharmaceutical intervention.
Yeah, that's the only way, really.
And I also like the idea that all these ghosts could be a side effect of some drug he's taking.
I call this tale, Know Me Better. Scrooge was better than his word. He became as good a friend, as good a man, and as good a master as the good old city knew. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he became a second father. Indeed, if you asked Bob Cratchit, he would have been hard-pressed to think of a time thereafter when Scrooge was not in their lives, taking Tim out on the town at any and all hours, popping round for dinner uninvited, throwing out the food they'd bought for themselves and replacing it with items he deemed superior, taking Bob out for a bowl of hot Christmas punch, or a bowl of hot New Year's punch, or a bowl of hot Arbor Day punch, or a bowl of hot punch for any old day at all. At first it was lovely. The extra attention did the children a world of good. Not to mention the bump in salary, and for a time the family, Scrooge included, for family he had become, were happy. But in the fullness of time it became clear that this new arrangement was dreadfully unsustainable. Bob and Mrs. Cratchit hadn't had time alone, and they couldn't remember when, and it had certainly hampered their ability to make children without end, as was their God-given duty. It was only that Scrooge was always about, and when we say always, we rather mean it. When it was time for games or days on Camden Town, there was Scrooge. And when the existing children were all gone to bed, there was Scrooge expounding once again on his adventures with the so-called spirits upon Christmas Eve, only to then doze in his chair by the hearth while the elder Cratchits moved about uncomfortably, readying themselves and the place for another day. Scrooge had finally realized how lonely he'd been, and, thrilled at last to share his days with people he loved, I'm afraid he went rather overboard. One day, upon another Christmas Eve, he felt again the need to brandish his expertise. "When I was with the ghost of Christmas present, oh, the sights I saw! Christmas plenty, cheer and mirth, decorations to put our meager ones here to shame, oh my, and such a beautiful—" "Now see here," said Bob, who, despite his generosity of spirit, had finally had enough. "I was keeping Christmas all the year quite before you, Mr. Scrooge, and though it may not be lofty enough for your grand tastes, I believe our decorations and cheer are beautiful enough, and will be beautiful enough to make us happy for years to come." "Oh, now, Bob, please, you mustn't think I mean you disrespect," said Scrooge, chastened. "Mr. Scrooge, though we appreciate all you've done for us, I think we'd prefer to spend this Christmas with immediate family only." Scrooge studied the wide pine boards of the floor with their drab gray coating. "I see," he said. "Of course, if that is the way you wish it." "Mr. Scrooge, don't be hurt. I only mean that—" No, you've made yourself quite plain. Please enjoy the turkey. Good evening." And without another word, Scrooge bound his muffler tight around his cheeks, the wool pulling at the frosty rime there. He needed a shave. He stepped out into the cold, sparing one last glance through the lighted window of the Cratchits' abode and the family toasting within, and skulked away down the road toward home, where awaited the darkness that was cheap at the very least. The lines around his mouth deepened in a frown, and rather than home, he decided his counting house would be the best place for him on this cold December night. His accounts needed attending, after all.
Bah, humbug. Wow. You twisted it, you flipped it.
I thought about how annoying it must have been for him to be just around all the time.
I'm giddy, it's a schoolboy. Yoo-hoo! Woohoo!
Hilly-ho there.
Hurrah!
It's just me being silly. And not really a holiday horror, more of a...
Again, like your Christmas story, Send It Back, where someone gets a gift that they can't get rid of and
Oh, it's the same thing. It's a gift they can't get rid of.
A real-life horror. Ryan, that was masterful.
Wow, thank you. I find myself delighted yet again that we've both written stories along similar lines, unbeknownst to one another. I think this is probably as close as we'll ever get to a
Christmas Miracle?
60B cast reading of A Christmas Carol. Fantastic.
The dwindling water of words has run dry, and the Yule log has burned low. Darkness approaches, bearing its icy teeth. Dig an ember from the ashes. Tell another story. Let your breath fan the flames. We Bleed Orange and Black wishes you a safe holiday and a happy new year.